How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Designsmith. Today we are going to be talking about the fundamentals of design. In general, there are 7 design fundamentals, and I'm going to go through each one of these, visually illustrating them for you. Okay, so the very first fundamental we're going to be talking about is emphasis. And this is going to be making sure that you're emphasizing the main object on your poster. So I'm just going to give you a clear and very simple example of this. So let's move this up here, and let's go over here and grab our rectangle tool. And let's say that you have 4 different squares on your poster, and you want to emphasize this one right here. So what you would do is select these 3 and swap the fill and the stroke, and maybe turn your stroke up to like 10 points or something. And then we would go over here and just set this to inside. So these 4 right here are what's showing on your poster, but this square is what's being emphasized. And this works in whatever field of design that you're in. So if you're working in web design, print design, poster design, it doesn't matter. Just make sure that the main object that you're wanting to highlight is being emphasized. All right, let's move on to our next fundamental, which is balance. All right, this one is pretty simple, but there's all kinds of ways that you can illustrate balance. So I'm going to create a couple of circles here, and we'll make this one nice and large. And then right up here in kind of the opposing section right here, we'll make this nice and small. And if you want to get super technical, we can. So we'll just go like this, move this 2 inches in. So these 2 elements right here are balancing each other perfectly. And you can also do something like this, and we will balance the text this way. So now these are balanced and now perfectly aligned with the circles, and balance is certainly a part of alignment. So just make sure that when you're creating your designs, all of your elements will have a sense of balance. All right, next up, let's talk about contrast. And this right here is a pretty simple way to communicate contrast, but what you would do here is do kind of like a half of the background in black, and then you can create this little circle right here. Select both of these and go to your Pathfinder and click on Exclude. So we've got a contrast going on here. We've got direct contrast with 100% black and 100% white over on this side, and then black and white right here as the background. And if you want to contrast your text, you can do exactly the same thing here. Let's copy this over here so I don't destroy this. We'll create outlines right here. Select both of these, and again, click on Exclude. So we have a sense of contrast going on here, and you can do this with colors and shapes and your typography. And let's show a different way of how you can further do this. So let's select everything that's right here, which is part of this text. Let's ungroup everything, and now let's select only the black text, hold down your Shift key, and then you can either raise it up or lower it down like this. And this way your colors are contrasting, and so is your text. And here's another way to utilize contrast, and this also utilizes balance. So just remember that it's crucial when you're creating your designs that there is a sense of contrast. All right, up next is repetition, and you can really have a lot of fun with this one. So let's move this over here and go up to Effect, Distort and Transform, and Transform. And we're going to scale the horizontal and vertical down by 90%. And let's move it by 2 inches on horizontal and vertical. And let's have a little bit of fun with this. So let's do -2 degrees on the angle, and we'll just do 50 copies. So as you can see right here, we are repeating this down here. And as it's repeating, it's scaling down 90%, moving at a horizontal rate and vertical rate of 2 inches, and it's also rotating at an angle of 2 degrees. So you can have a lot of fun with this and do some really cool stuff. And you can even play around with this where you can reflect the X and the Y, and you can click on random to kind of randomize some things here. You can change your anchor point, and you can do some really crazy stuff here by decreasing this angle, move the vertical down right here. And whenever you're happy with what you have, you can just hit OK, and you can still move this exactly right here because it's a repetition of this one particular instance. And you can do the exact same thing with shapes, and you can do this. Go to Object, Transform, and Transform Each. So you can say that it's going to scale down 75% and move over by maybe 5 inches. And then if you hit Copy, and then hit Command or Control D on your keyboard, you can just keep hitting this, and it'll just keep going. And then you can kind of bring them in, selecting the first one, and make sure that distribute spacing is set to 0. And now you can bring this over here. So you've got this nice repetition of elements here. And even though every design should have emphasis, balance, and contrast, repetition isn't really necessary for every single design that you're doing. Just make sure that if you use it effectively. All right, so next up is proportion, and I really do feel like a lot of new designers particularly struggle with this. And it's just something that you get better at with time and practice. But it is important to know how to size and place your objects appropriately. And for this example, we'll create a little face here, and we'll just make it up using some basic geometric shapes. So let's create 2 of them here, and we'll leave the one on the left as it is, but over here, I'm just gonna kind of grab these two, move them a little bit higher, and move the nose up a little bit more. And as you can see, by just moving a couple of these elements here, we've got a much better proportion on the right side than we do on the left side. The nose over here is the same size as the eyes, and unless you're wanting to create some kind of a clown artwork here, you would definitely want to go with the face on the right side. So just remember to size and then resize all of your elements to make sure that it's appropriate. Okay, the next fundamental that we'll be discussing is movement. And you can definitely use repetition to showcase movement in your designs. So let's go back here to our transform effect. And I've got this strange little thing here where I've got this kind of like spiral effect happening here with these circles. But as you can see, you can have a lot of fun with doing this. And what this is doing is we're utilizing repetition and movement. So we're kind of showing this movement of this spiral pattern as it's going down. Another great but very simple and effective method of movement is something like this. Let's go up here to Effect, Distort, and Zigzag. And you can change the size here based on how extreme you want these to be. And then you can do the rides per segment. And you can also switch it over from corner to smooth. And then you can adjust this right here. If you want these little wave patterns right here, this communicates movement in a really nice way. And if you hold down Option or Alt and Shift and click and drag, you can create some waves going on right here. So these are just a couple of examples, but as you can see, you can easily communicate movement without having any animation. The user's eye will naturally see this as a moving piece, even though it's not actually moving. Okay, and the last fundamental that we're going to be discussing is white space. And I've laid out 3 different examples right here. So this first one is using no white space whatsoever. So you can see here that there is definitely an importance of having white space in your designs. The second instance is good, and this is what you'll be using most of the time. We've got a good amount of spacing in between the heading and the first paragraph, as well as the spacing between the first and second paragraphs. And then the third instance is what we refer to as elegant. There's much more breathing room between the heading and the first paragraph, and then there's also even more spacing in between the lines themselves. So it just depends on what you're putting together, but you want to make sure that you are utilizing white space between your text and the rest of your elements in your design. And just like anything else, this comes with time and practice. All right, well, thank you so much for joining today. If there's anything that I didn't cover in this video and you'd like me to talk about, just let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching and subscribing. Click the bell for notifications to be notified of all future videos, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.